Let's do it.
All right. So welcome, everybody. We are going to talk about travel books today, right, April?
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I know you're traveling right now, so this is awesome. So we're live and we're sharing books that have inspired us to go places or that have somehow inspired us.
Yeah, and this is always a topic that when we talk about it, everybody chimes in with something. So April and I each picked 5 books on our list, some of which we have with us. And we want to hear from you too, what your books are. We will send the list in, or put the list of our 5 books, our total of 10, in the description below for you, those of you who are listening to the recording. And if not, come back and listen to it and you'll get the description. But let's just walk through our 5. Do you want to share
Yeah,
your
I'll go ahead and start.
one?
I think a lot of times what's inspired some of my travels goes all the way back to when I was a kid. So this is even great for kids. So I decided to pull something because when I was a kid, I got hooked on the Nancy Drew Hardy Boys mystery series. I mean, it
Uh-huh.
was the one series of books I could just keep reading and read through, and they were fast reads. So I just picked one of my Nancy Drew books. It's called The Bungalow Mystery. I
Oh,
kind of
cool.
see it, and it's the cover that I
If
keep
you hold the
missing.
cover closer to your face, like put it right in front of your face, we can usually see it. Nope, still not showing it to us. Nope,
Uh,
I hate that.
well, right there. I hate that. Here, maybe, whatever. Anyways, it's called The Bungalow Mystery. It's got this beat up bungalow on the front cover. And I'm always, when I'm out photographing, I'm drawn to like abandoned little houses and buildings. So I know that these past mysteries inspire my current travels today.
They do. All of those like books that you read as a kid, even movies and stuff, David. I'm sorry. I'm like have to plug in my phone because as you said, I'm traveling and it was like, oh no, it's not going to see a charge.
So, what do
So
you got,
let's
Cindy?
see. Well, I'm going to bring a classic up, which I'm sure most folks have read, which is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. So this is one of those books that if you are a woman and you like to travel, you've probably read this one in the last few years. I saw the movie first for whatever reason. I don't usually do that, and then went back and read the book. There's something great about this book and all of her adventures. I like solo travel, as you know, so it was independent. She's learning as she goes and meeting other people. But it's also, like you would expect, she does a lot of self-discovery, which is what happens also when you travel, either alone or with others. There's all of that going on. So a lot of travel books will have that element of
Oh,
self-discovery going on
yeah.
too.
I love
So,
that. So, my second book, and again, it kind of goes back to my childhood a little bit, was the poems by Robert Frost. I know in high school we probably had to study Robert Frost.
yeah.
And I've always had that. My parents were always going to New England sometimes as I got older, and I couldn't go. So I'd be home doing my schoolwork and thinking about, oh, they're doing this, they're going here. And the poetry, a lot of Robert Frost's poems, because he lived in New Hampshire and Vermont, he wrote about the change of seasons. He wrote about the path in the woods that diverged, the trees, the change of seasons. So now, not only do I think about it when I'm looking for photographs, but I also wanted to see where he wrote the books, the woods behind his farm in New Hampshire. So it really did inspire. I continue to go back to some of those places and look for new ones because he taught in Vermont. He had a couple different properties, and at various times in his life, he always had a little farm and woods near him, and that's where he would go and wander and be inspired. So
But I'm glad you brought a poetry book up because we often think of like, novels and that sort of thing, but it doesn't have to be that. I have a couple
oh,
of oddballs on my list too.
oh
The
good.
next one I, I have, which is it's not I don't have the physical book, but it's called The Sun is a Compass by Caroline Van Hemert. Hemert. Um, and we read this in my book club, and I think it was one of the first books, probably in the first year that we had the book club. It still ranks very high on my all-time favorites. Another journey, much like the Cheryl Strayed, her and her husband take 4,000 miles to travel by human powered travel. So they are not just walking, I think they build their own kayaks, they cross country ski, they do all of the different things. Their rule was that they were going to do this human powered, and they start in the southern part of or California near San Diego, I think is where they start, very south, and they go all the way to northern Alaska. Like I said, they travel 4,000 miles, all done that way, which is a ton of fun. It's her and her husband together. Again, more self-discovery. The woman who wrote the book is, now the word is escaping me. She's a birder, but she studies bird scientist.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I love birds.
ornithologist or something
there we
like
go.
that.
And she studies birds, and she's having some, career challenges, as you know, and again, travel makes you self-reflect and think about it. So there's a lot of little blurbs of things in there about the birds that she sees along the way, as well as just how she's feeling about her career and where she's at, along with this amazing journey of, swimming and kayaking and snow, cross-country skiing in the snow, encounters with bears, encounters with other humans. It's another great story, very similar to the Cheryl Strayed's Wild book. So I like those, as you can tell, that the journey books are good for me.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, those are fabulous. That's great. My third one is called A Piece of the World, and I don't unfortunately have the book with me, and it, like you said, it's sometimes after you go to a place. I mean, I studied art, so I was always familiar with this painting called Christina's World, and it's painted by one of the Wyeths. There was a father, a son, and the grandfather also. They were all painters in Maine. And so after visiting Maine, I came across Christina Baker Kline's book that she actually wrote maybe in the last 5 or 6 years, but it was one of those books I could not put down. I just read it really quick. And for me, that's amazing because oftentimes I'm like a dabbler. I read a little here, then I pick something else up. So to go from cover to cover, A Piece of the World, for someone that doesn't know the painting very well, doesn't know Maine, it creates a backstory. It creates real facts with the character, who was a real woman in that painting, and the painter, and the location. Yeah, it's fabulous.
That sounds great. Okay, we're on my third book. Okay, this is actually the very first book that we read in my book club, and again, stays at the top of the list. It's called A Year of Living Danishly by Helen Russell, and that was pretty popular at the time a few years ago, but it's a beautiful book. She's from the UK. Her husband has this opportunity to go to Denmark for his job. I think he actually works for Lego, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
Yeah. And so her and her husband pick up house, and they move, and they think they're going to just move for the year. And she's a writer. And so she takes on this goal of trying to figure out why why it's a happy place. Like, everybody says it's a great country and it's one of the happiest places to live. Their happy value is up there in the high numbers there. So what she does in the book, which is a great way to format it, is she just picks a different theme and explores that theme. So everything from so what's the deal with the food, and what's the deal with companionship and finding friends? What's the deal with raising your children and education? And so she just starts interviewing people throughout the month, and she focuses on that. So each chapter is broken up that way. So you really feel she's learning herself. I mean, as the book goes on throughout the months, in the, double digit months, 10, 11, and 12, she's learning to love the country and also see some of its faults as well, and kind of brings those to the surface as she's becoming more comfortable. And you feel like, because she takes you along, that you're learning to love living in Denmark and loving the ways, and also getting kind of ooh, that sounds kind of scary. Everybody belongs to a club in Denmark, and there's a lot of nudity involved, and nude swimming, and it's very bizarre to her, her world. And so just something that they get used to. So, and the raising the children, and how that in education, time off with her husband, they have lots of vacation time off. So it was really interesting. One of the beautiful things about traveling is the culture, right? And so this book really just, instead of just giving you a glimmer of the culture, I feel like you get to go dive deep into what's happening. So that was my third one. I think that's 3.
Yeah, I think that's 3. I know. I'm losing track too. Another book, like I said, I have a lot of interest, and sometimes I can't read a book cover to cover, but one that I go back to all the time is this Charles Kuralt's America. And
Okay.
he was a journalist, and no matter what you thought about his journalist newscasting, even his personal life has come into question apparently. He just each month of the year breaks down a place that he stayed for an entire month, and
Wow.
again, like meeting the locals, eating the food, just
Okay.
blending in, and I just love that. So it's oftentimes when it's like, yeah, where did he go in June? Where can I go in June? It's like I'll look it up and go, oh wow, that's a place I didn't think of. I mean, sometimes they're little tiny small towns
Yeah.
in a part of rural America that does it's not glamorous. Most of the places are like that. They're not places that are on the main tourist, heavily trafficked areas. So it inspires you to go and find maybe these places on a map and pick somewhere that's not, don't go to Booth Bay, Maine. Everybody goes there. Go pick
Yeah.
a less, like a just a little town. Look at the location, look at your map, and go there instead because you're going to get a more local experience.
Yeah, and oftentimes way more fun, that's not so
Yeah.
trafficked with tourists and stuff. I'm going to have to grab that book as the recommendation to my mom, because my mom has always told me if I could just travel, but I want to stay every place for a month. And that's what she keeps talking about. Like, I'd like to go to a small place, like just a different state, live a
Yes.
month, and then move to another one. So I'm going to have to grab that one and give it to her.
I know. I totally wish I could do that too. I keep telling Jeff, I'm going to just disappear and go live there for a month, and just because you'd be immersed, you just
Yeah.
live there.
At least enough. I know that's what I did when I did my time when I stayed in Manhattan. I was like, I have to stay at least a month in order to feel like I lived here, right? You can't go for
Yeah.
2 weeks. I think I was there 8 weeks, and that really did make me feel more like I get what it's like to live here, at least a little bit more than I did if I was vacationing. Okay, so my next
I think you're on four
book,
too.
number 4, I think it is. It's a book I've read years and years ago, and I've read it several times now. Read it with my book club, read it on my own. It's called Looking for Lovedu, and it's actually spelled loved and then the letter U, but it's pronounced
Oh.
Lovedu. And I picked it up because I saw that it's like Looking for Lovedu is what it says on the title, by Anne Jones. And this woman does this Lovedu. It's the Lovedu tribe, and it was the last known tribe to be woman run. And it's in Africa. And so her and a counterpart, another journalist, got some sponsorship through some of the big magazines and so forth. And they took off on a journey at the top of Africa in Morocco,
Wow.
driving through the south in search of where this Lovedu tribe had been left. And so their journey all through Africa, and she does ultimately find them. And there is some nice stories and conversation with the folks in the tribe. But it's more about the journey than it is the
Yeah.
destination. But I was also fascinated by this, woman, at the helm of a society, and what that meant, and how they handled that, and kind of the differences that was within that organization. So Looking for Lovedu or Lovedu is my number 4, right?
Yeah, I don't even at this point I don't even know if I've got it. I just grabbed a bunch of books that I really love, so it might not be our top ones. Because I could keep going, but I'll go with this one. It's called Friends, Lovers, and Chocolate, and it's part of a series by Alexander McCall-Smith. So again, it's kind of that mystery thing. You could see it a minute ago, but I've spent some time in Scotland, but then I wanted to like learn more and there's so many corners in Scotland, so many little towns. Edinburgh has like it's so old and so unique in little corners and businesses and old things. I don't know. And this takes place there. So again, it's just that kind of, discovery woven with a mystery. They have a bookshop in there. So it's all the things I love, and just that whole idea of what may be around the next corner, spending more time somewhere, looking beyond the main tourist attractions and digging a little deeper. And if I discovered the book first, it would definitely, because of the descriptiveness of it, make me want to go and spend time there.
Oh yeah, that's great. I love how books make you feel like you're there, right?
Right.
So the last one, I bring this book up all the time, so it's not the first time April's seen it. It's called Unruly Places, by far one of the best books if you're a travel addict. Because it's like you said, April, you can just read, it's self-contained little chapters. I kind of feel like it's the Reader's Digest of travel places.
Yeah.
The subtitle of it is Lost Places, Secret Cities, and Other Inscrutable Geographies. And again, honestly, it's so fascinating. There's sections called Lost Spaces. So the old Mecca is in here.
Oh, that sounds fabulous.
That don't exist. And then there's the hidden gems of places, like there's a whole underground community in Turkey. There's underwater places. There's islands that no one knows that. Then there's no man's land. There's places between where no one actually owns the property. No country has taken ownership of it.
Wow.
Dead cities, places that no longer exist that aren't cities, spaces of exception, breakaway nations, floating islands, and then the last section, which I wasn't super excited about, but it's like unknown places. I don't like the fictional part, but the rest of it, I mean, there's everything in this book about the decoy cities, about islands and places that didn't exist. It only existed on a map because they were like mirages. So on older maps, like this island existed. And then finally, as technology advanced, they're like, there's no island there at all.
Oh,
but it actually had a
really
name.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love Unruly Places. Like I said, because it's the Reader's Digest, right? Every story is really self-contained. You read a little chapter of a few pages, anywhere from like 3 to 10 pages, and you learn about that one little weird place.
Right.
Places you can actually put on your
let's go and like you'd go and research it and check it out. It's kind of like my Ghost Towns books. That was the one I didn't mention. It's just, as a kid, I was always reading these ghost town books, and then it's like, as I got into California, I'm like, oh, I gotta go check out this ghost town. We gotta go there.
Gotta go see it in person.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the cool thing. And the reading this book really made me think about, and I know we've talked about it on our channel and in our coffee chats a couple of times, about places that are no longer there.
Yeah.
And this still happens today, right? Like places just disappear, either for political reasons, or, I mean, I can't remember the country. I want to say it's either Central America or South America. There was an island that actually is gone. It was probably 6 miles wide on either way. And the ocean has just covered it. It's gone. So over the course of a few years, it just got smaller and smaller, and it's now underwater now. And all those people that used to live there, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's kind of like the mining towns. Even in the United States, there's these mining towns in upper Michigan, in Kentucky, and Tennessee that literally have just, that's what a ghost town is. That was booming, and then for whatever reason, the jobs left, it's gone. I mean, look what happened to Detroit even. And they've worked now to kind of revitalize and keep people living there. Otherwise, it might have just, it's sad to say, but
it really makes you think about the evolution of places. And I know in a book that we read in my Around the World in 80 Trains, is an Monisha,
I can't remember another good one. See?
Yeah, she took a train ride. Now this was in North Korea. And she did this in the 2000s. So in the last decade or so, she did this trip. So, and, a lot of people are like, why would you take that? And, you're only going to see what the government wants you to see. Like there's that piece. Because it's very restrictive of what you're allowed to do. And on her train ride, there was a gentleman that had gone on it several times. I don't know, 5 or 8 times. And she was fascinated. And she talked to him about that. And his response was, he comes back to see what's changed.
Mm.
And, that started me thinking, because you and I both come from Iowa. And when you go back to your hometown, or you go back to those neighborhoods, just sometimes it's like you're on a different planet. It's like, this is not what, it's changed so much. It almost is not recognizable anymore.
Right.
So, we've talked about repeating places. And so, there's just, books are so great. They can take you back to a different time, a different place, and then you can go see it.
Yeah, this has been great. Yeah.
So much fun. Well, I think we've covered 10.
Easy. Yep. I have more too.
But I think this will maybe get people kind of thinking about things they could read and things that they might want to share too. So if you have comments, just comment here. We'll pick it up and maybe we'll have another chat.
Right, exactly. So thanks everyone for joining us. Drop a comment, a like, a share. If you subscribe, you'll get more content. And we do these the coffee chat we do every other week. So check us
Yeah,
out on Facebook. You can find us there too. So
great. Talk to y'all soon.